Does that help? You said it wasn't clear.
This perspective of products seems to have a meaning about processes to me.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Maybe that.
Yeah.
It's not the case that somehow any motion has to be synchronized, you see there, in the product.
Something like that.
Whereas in the other one, the motion is one of the people can move and the other one. But I have a question still. If there's a duration involved, the degenerate has a duration, even though they have a duration in the product.
Well, okay, so by duration, okay, let's just say, when you talk about duration, you think of this as a special case of labeling, right? In other words, in general, given a topos of an object, you can take the slice topos, right? So if you have a graph topos, you take a particular object and slice by it. And so that this amounts to considered a label graph. The arrows and dots are labeled. Typically, one takes things that have only loops, so you label the arrows, but don't worry about labeling the dots. If you take a general label code domain, you can label the dots as well, but you insist that it's done in a consistent manner. Now, all that is true, no matter which topos or graphs you're talking about. Now, what you're saying is more precisely, if you think of this duration labeling as having something to do with processes, the kind of processes that can be described as, subtle conditions, depend on which topos you're in. I would accept that.
But does that got anything to do with this distinction? I mean,
How
does it affect this distinction? Anyway.
Well, I think, well, you're saying somehow if you want to label time in your reflexive graph, sort of insisting that you go on, you can't stop, or at least a suitable labeling can ensure that you can't stop. Whereas in the reflexive case, there would always be the option of stopping, no matter how you label it. Something like that. What I just said may not be right, but something very like it is true.
What's that got to do with the general question
Of cohesive version, yeah, I don't know. I mean, good. Good. You passed. You asked a question. What?
Good what?
I said a good question.
What the answer?
You go and look for it. Now that it has been pointed out that among all the graph topos, as you can imagine, some are cohesive and some aren't. What does that have to do with the details of how processes can be labeled in various, the labels in various? Is there a clear distinction between the types of process, as you can see, just from knowing that this is a cohesive version of graph theory or the other kind?
But actually, I think it's so great that, I mean, is it correct to think that things in both topics are processed, or one should be processed and not the other? Does that have an effect on that question?
Well, look,
Anyway.
probably not.
Probably not.
Because, why do I say not in general? Because the usual procedure is to work in abstract sets, and then you have a set of states and a set of operators, and in other words, no constrictions at all on how that the actions be morphisms or something. So you can always revert to that case and model anything. which is what I wanted to say, the amazing power of sets. Amazing power of sets. I lost the page. So basically, there's two parts. There is Grossman's. Grossman's book starts with the amazingly clear philosophy, which everyone says is obscure, about how mathematics is divided into four parts. Bigger?
Closer to the microphone.
Closer to the microphone. And the way you get these four parts is by the interaction of two different contradictions. One is continuous versus discrete, and the other is different versus equal. And my point is that we have a rather precise and also surprisingly rather adequate model for those four aspects here. So essentially what we approach this whole question of cohesion in a relative sense. That is what we want to describe as the contrast between cohesive and not cohesive. E and U, which we could call continuous and cohesive and non-cohesive is really continuous and discrete in some sense. Now there's a big problem what discrete you would think. It's a problem of axiomatizing set theory, you could say, at one end. How can you describe the topos where the things really, really, really don't move? They really, really, really don't have any cohesion. Cantor had this idea already in 1860 or something, the dates. And he was sure that if you could do that, then you would have the continuum hypothesis. And I think he's right, actually. The continuum hypothesis is true. What does it say? It says if the sets are sufficiently inert, then there's no cardinals between x and 2dx. I mean, they don't form any coordinates as cardinals. I think that implication is true. The problem is to express the hypothesis in a sufficiently usable way. The reason I think it's true is that I think Gödel proved it, you see, except his proof is it's based on induction, I don't like induction. Or to put it another way, the fact that the sets are inert doesn't have anything to do with building them up using the possible, the most narrow possible, definition of constructivism. It's a different concept, but it is a way of getting at a version of it. But probably, surely the absolutely inert sets is a bit more general than constructible sets. But of course not as general as the sort of thing that's allowed by ZF. The whole struggle around, whether the axioms of ZF are sufficient or not is really not the issue. The issue is whether they describe, this inertness. And what happens is, of course, that you can, I don't have the full knowledge of all the kinds of models of set theory constructed in the last 40 years. But certainly most of them answer to the following type of description. That you actually start with a system which is a little bit variable or a little bit cohesive. And then you freeze the variation. You look at it with finitary glasses. And it looks like it's not moving, it's not cohesive. In other words, it satisfies ZF. But that's because you're just looking at it using only finitary logic. But the actual concrete way that you construct these models is you do look at things that are genuinely variable, and then you collapse them a lot, but you only collapse them, say, modulo definitory open filter instead of watching a more complete open filter. And that's why they still satisfy those particular axioms. But refute they're not really constant, and so they don't satisfy anymore. Anyway, but that's not even the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing is that really the idea of a dialectical contrast between continuous and discrete comes up in other ways, in the sense that what you'd like to call discrete is only relatively discrete anyway. It might have some interesting structure and still be qualitatively opposite to some E that's sitting over it. I've used the word U here because Grothendieck talks about U-toposes, U-toposes. U-toposes in the sense of Grothendieck are just toposes that are defined over U, where U happens to be a model set. He satisfies a lot for their properties. But the idea of U-topos could be any other topos. Now, you might like it if it were Boolean, and if it wasn't, and so forth. I mean, there are all sorts of reasons. As I say in algebraic number theory, it's very appropriate to look at bar atomic sheaves on the category of finite field extensions, which happens to be in Boolean topos. If the ground field is the rationals, it should be called the Galois topos. That's the natural base, not abstract set theory. That's the natural base for algebraic geometry. But there's no reason why none of the axioms that I have force you to be Boolean or anything special. It's just some topos as a starting point, and we have a qualitative lead to more cohesive or more variable into E. So we want to describe what kind of a contrast that is. I'm just talking about the P now. And so in the general discussion, I'll discuss shortly how we can describe models of this, but the kind of thing that it should be is, first of all, a geometric morphism of toposes. So it's a function that has a left adjoint, and the left adjoint preserves products. No, left adjoint preserves everything. That in turn has a left adjoint that's called pieces. And so I mentioned three functors. P lower star, which extracts the points, and P upper star, which includes the discrete as a special case with continuous. You always have this idea of zero as a number, right? So that among the continuous and variable, discrete and the cohesive and variable, there are those which are not the zeroth case, but the zeroth case is arbitrarily set at U. So P lower shriek extracts from the discrete space of pieces from any given cohesive space. P lower shriek, the left adjoint, as my example before with the components in England and all that. P lower star just extracts the points. So P lower star and P lower shriek are respectively the right and left adjoints of the inclusion of the discrete part. So I've tried to concoct a notation here. I mean, pi 0 is a very, very common notation for the set of components of something. It seems appropriate to try to work inside E as much as possible. So I transport U into E, but then there are two ways to do that. So I have these idempotent functors, pi 0, pi lower 0, and pi upper 0 and the other way, which is simply the pieces and the points, but construed again as special spaces,